guys, how you doing? I'm Dan Dawson, and again, this is another breakdown of Wheel of Time, Episode 2. So this episode, much better than the first one, really hit the ground running, didn't depart too much from the books, had some cool additions, and let's get into it. Before we start, I want to remind everybody that there is heavy spoilers for both the series all the way through Episode 3, because that's all that's been put out so far, as well as the entire book series. Prequel, Big White Book, all the things. So there are all the spoilers. There's your warning. If you don't like things being spoiled and you haven't gotten caught up yet, feel free to leave, but click that subscribe and bell icon before you go. And let's get on with the video. So first thing, that intro with the White Cloaks is so damn good. Everything about that first scene was a hit for me. Everything from seeing the guys working, seeing the different color for the shoulder pauldrons and everything, slightly different styles of dress, the camp, the detail was so freaking good. Even the child bringing up the thing and saying, from the Lord Commander for your victory, is just, and just the way he just dismisses him, go away. Everything's just so on point. That little dish that he had there, have you ever tried this delicacy? It's this little, I guess, baked bird, but they sharpen the feet, just so good. And the way he explains it, and I didn't realize this to begin with when I first watched it, I thought that what was dripping out of his mouth might have been like something from a pastry, because I didn't get a good look at it. But now I'm like, oh, he's showing that's the blood from where it cut his mouth, probably the roof of his mouth, the way he stuck that thing in there. And just the look of sheer pleasure on the guy's face as he's eating that thing is just so good. Oh my God. The little exchange he has with the Aes Sedai, talking about, there's a brutality to it. It cuts the roof of your mouth. Basically how that pain brings the pleasure, and how, maybe being burned at the stake can lead to your salvation in the White Cloak's eyes. And I really think that's kind of what he's getting at. Like, this is what you're seeing as brutality is a mercy because I'm cleansing your soul. And they don't say that, but that's a very, I don't even want to say puritanical, but it's a very like witch hunty type thing. And that's kind of what they are if you think about the White Cloaks in general. So just that scene with everything in there is great. And I think that the actor is just perfect for that role. He's so righteous but creepy at the same time in what he's saying. Like, you can tell, like, he believes this, but he's also down to torture a little bit and cut off an Aes Sedai hands and collect rings. But he's doing this for the light, and he believes it, and I love that that's what he's going with. So kudos on that. Okay, so now we got the intro, and again, like I said in the previous video, I love the music. I love the way that it works. I thought initially that the threads that it's weaving into the weave looked a little too angular, but I don't mind it as much now. It's fine, but just the way that it's going, you're seeing these different colored threads being weaved. Initially, I was like, oh, it's weaving into the map, and then it puts more blue in it. Pans out, you're like, oh, that's a woman. Is that a queen or something? And then that final reveal at the end where it's all these Aes Sedai of all the different colors Ajahs was just great. I do have a theory on that I will get into my theory video later this week. But it was phenomenal. Everything about that was so good. Even just, I want to go back and, I will probably do just a breakdown on that later on. So let's save the rest of that for when I do that video, because I think there's some spoilers and Easter eggs in there and some theories that can be drawn off of that, just because it's so intricately done that there's no way that they didn't try to sneak some things in there. I have a suspicion on that. So we'll save going over that for later. But let's break away. Let's go back to Terran Ferry. I pretty much covered most of what I wanted to say on Terran Ferry in the previous video. I like the whole, they don't like walking across water. I like the whole Trollocs don't like deep water. All that was really well done. The Fade walking up on his horse, I should say trotting up on the horse, looking menacing and just standing there for a second before it does that. Oh, so good. I will say that if you look at there's one Trolloc that it's kind of ram-like. His horns are a little bit different. They're actually very much classic Loki horns almost. but he's just kind of doing this the whole time. Oh, and it's pretty good. But again, like I said in the previous one, I think that a lot of the those stuntmen that are playing those Trollocs were told, don't stand still, be in constant movement, and it does make a little distracting with the horns, but neither here nor there. I like the whole way my son's coming back. It gave the guy a reason to try to go back into the water, which further led to the Emmons Fielders, or Two Rivers folk, whatever you want to call them, kind of having some distrust of Moraine for a second, as well as give a reason for Egwene to question Moraine later on, which I thought was very good. They get there, they have that scene where all the Emmons Fielders are like, oh man, what do we, what about this? What do we do with her? I mean, if we disagree, are we going to end up like that guy? That's a real concern, and that to me is very true to Robert Jordan's vision for the series. I know that he said, that part of the reason that he wrote the series and the way he wrote it was, being from a smaller town or from the country or whatever you want to call it, he always thought that having just someone come up and like, hey, you're destined to save the world, let's go on our journey, always didn't sit right with him. The people were like, oh, okay, let's go. Let's go take the ring to Mount Doom. It always didn't sit well with him. That's how people react. And I think that's kind of what this is again. You just saw her basically murder this person. I know that she didn't mean to. She didn't want him to go in there. He went on his own. I get that, but flip it around. You just, your home just got wrecked by Trollocs. Now you're absconded by this Aes Sedai who you already don't trust because Aes Sedai aren't to be trusted. And now you saw her basically a Terran fairy folk who basically is a Two Rivers folk. You saw her just kill him. You're not going to be straight up trusting this person. And I like that they threw that in there. And it so seeds distrust with all of them. Rand, Egwene, Matt, Perrin, all of them were like, oh, yeah, you make a point there. I think the only one who really kind of saw the, stern, almost cold, he's gone, was Perrin. I think he's the only one who kind of understood the decision initially, or at least understood that, like, hey, this is over. He's already gone. We can't go try to save him. So that was good. And then you see them kind of lay down for the night. Kind of like how Rand is, facing the door, showing he's not going to put his back to the door. He wants anything that's coming in to be in front of him, not behind him. So good choice there. But also looking at Egwene, he's still in love with Egwene. He doesn't, he won't admit it, but he is. So he's going to he's going to want to be able to look over her back and watch her. But then kind of waking up as soon as Moraine comes in, showing A, that he's on guard, and B, that he's waiting for something like this. And then her leaving with Egwene was good. That whole scene, very true to the books. I like the way that she probed Egwene for, hey, you've heard of the three O's. What are they? No exact words, because words have meanings, and how we use them mean things. We should be paying attention to those things. Hey, hint, hint, audience, pay attention to what Moraine says and how she says it. That is what that said to me. Very much so. So think for a minute back to the scene just prior, because this is a very common tool used in visual storytelling, whether it be plays, movies, television. This is the kind of foreshadowing and backwards foreshadowing they'll do. Is they'll say, hey, pay attention to what I say from now on, but you should have paid attention a scene or two earlier. And that's what they'll do. That's kind of one of the good things about being able to go back and rewatch this, when the guy stands up and says, you're not the kind of woman that hears no very often. And she didn't have to respond to that because he was getting up to do what she was doing. But very clearly and very sternly she says, I am not. So what does that mean? We'll see later. I don't know. It might not have meant anything. But hey, that was the first one that how she said something stuck out to me. So we'll see what that is. I'll see if maybe that'll be the theory stuff, if nothing else. By the way, the theory things that I put out, they're not always meant to be absolutely correct. It's just fun to theorize for anybody who was back in the 2000s through 2010s. That were on Theoryland, Dragonmount, Tarvalon.net. All those places. Us fans love to theorize about the Wheel of Time, so I want to continue doing that in these videos. That's what the theory videos will be. we'll set that aside for right now. Let's get back into the breakdown, the more in-depth breakdown and things that I liked. After talking about the three oaths and what they are and explaining to Egwene and more importantly the audience who haven't read the books how important they are, that it's not that it's just that they won't break them, it's that they cannot break them because they are bound by the one power. Wonderful. And then the scene with the jewel, those first two were mine, that last one was yours and yours alone. Thank you for bringing that in. Pretty much directly from the books. That's great. I like that they're not exactly the books, but when they see a moment that's like, Robert Jordan probably did this perfectly and better than we could ever come up with, so let's just leave it in there. I love the fact that they're doing that. The discussion about, the one power that she could be Aes Sedai's another time, that Moraine says something very clear and direct. She's like, but I'm no Aes Sedai. She's like, you could be. You could be. I thought that was great. All right, so I'm going to actually speed through the rest of this. I was planning on this being a longer breakdown, but my camera is running low on battery because I forgot to charge them. So I am going to try to get through this very quickly and try to hit all the big, more in-depth points that I wanted to make. So let's get to when Jeffrey Bornhold, and I'm assuming it's Jeffrey Bornhold, catch up or run into Moraine and company on the road. Great scene. I will say that the horses look amazing. The only thing that I think would have been better with that is if they had somewhat of a blinder on. Normally with those type of, horse headdresses, I don't know what you want to call them, horse helmet, it's not right either. But normally with that, you'll see some kind of a blinder. They don't have that, especially with these being horses that are meant to potentially ride into battle. It's going to be really bad if they start getting freaked out because of stuff they're seeing out of the corner of their eye. So, small detail there, but overall, beautiful scene. I love they brought in the wound, the way that Moraine just describes, you wouldn't believe monster, sir, and just you could tell like Rosamund Pike just showed off acting skills there as someone who's hurt, is trying not to lie. And that was the other thing, is there was a good pause, and she goes, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. And you could tell the wheels were turning in her head. There's enough of a pause that it seems like it's just a distraught woman, distraught noble woman. And then there's the other part where it's like, oh, she's buying time because she is working out how to say this because she is not able to lie. So that was just beautiful the way that whole thing went. Afterwards, when they do the, Gwen asks her, hey, I thought you said you couldn't break the oaths, and she's like, hey, the truth that Aes Sedai says is not necessarily the one you hear. Pay attention. Hey, audience, pay attention to how they say things. Yet again, very effective. I know that I did like it better in the book when it was Tam saying it, but there was a lot more. Aes Sedai were much more secretive in that one. She never let many people know that she was Aes Sedai until the last minute. They were very mistrusting. So it's a different take. The fact that they left it in there, wonderful. Also getting a thing that was taken out of the earlier scenes in Emond's Field or the Two Rivers that are now on this journey, the Manetheren story. Almost word for word, just, at least point for point out of the way she says it in the book, or tells that particular tale in the book. Just so good. And I like how it's panning around to the different characters, the different Emond's Fielders, and seeing kind of how they're reacting to her telling. I really like Weep from Manetheren. That's a very good song. And you see how the guitar, I'm definitely going to do a cover of that as soon as I'm done with it. I will put it out. It will probably be a mixture between some very, I don't know if you can see up there, I do have a lute, so I'll probably throw some lute playing in there and then make it much more modern, and some electric guitars probably playing the melody. But I'm looking forward to that. I really like the fact there's songs in this, and that we're seeing them. I thought if we got any, it would be from Tom Maryland. I didn't expect them to just hop right into that song, Long Ago. Just so good. I'm not a vocalist per se, but I just loved it. And I could see, people loving that song and loving singing it. It's very catchy, but also very, very time appropriate at the same time for kind of the setting of most fantasy. I'm going to have to backtrack just a little bit because there was one line that I thought was so damn good. And that is the question. Who I'm assuming is Eamon Valda. He's probably credited as that. But him looking here saying, "The light is always with you. It needs no instruction." Just so good. That's just great. So now to the scene when they're sleeping, and Egwene wakes up. That's the second time that she's had that kind of a reaction. And then in the distance, there's a fade coming up and starting to shriek. It's the second time it's happened that she has basically known that it was going to happen. She's woken up ahead of time. And then Lan came up. They found us. We need to go. Wow. Egwene knew it was happening. So that might be leading to the fact that she's a dreamer. Maybe it just has to do with channeling the one power. I don't know per se. I know that Aes Sedai and Warders can do that a little bit. As they're running, and they're running through the woods, and then it stops. The horses stop. You distinctly hear Egwene finally say the name I'm wanting to hear. Bella! So Bella's there, obviously. So they said the Narg's in here. We got Bella there. That's all we need. We now have the Dark One, the creator. We're good. Roll credits. I didn't like that scene per se because the city of Shatter Lagoth is still far behind them, and the Trollocs have stopped like right at the wood line. Like they wouldn't. I understand not going into Shatter Lagoth, but they just stopped. Go get them. It seemed weird. I think they should have kept going and kind of seen the Trollocs starting to slow down over the shoulder as they were still forcing their horses to ride on. So that was a minor thing, but Shadow Lagoth looked great. Oh my God, it looked so good. The streets were great. The level of detail and the architecture was phenomenal. When Rand gets up, when Rand and Egwene are on top, and you get that overarching city view, like I said, that is my headcanon right there. So good. And it just made me really happy to see all that. I didn't have a problem with the fact that Rand didn't go with Matt, or they didn't have that little encounter in the books that they had here. You see the shadow, and something's obviously leading him towards that. So, same effect. He finds the dagger, which, yes, dagger's cursed. And, you can kind of tell. You hear the little whispers and everything from it. By the way, did you notice that when they walked outside, and I think I brought this up in the other video, there's that statue standing there like this, and there's all that black dust. I still think that's where birds were sitting perched when the shadows that are waiting finally came up and got it and turned them to dust, much like they did one of the horses. I'm not going to get into the continuity error with the horses, how one died and then the others ran away when the Emsfielders came out. But then minutes later when Moraine comes out, two of them are back. It is what it is. Like I said in the other video, I think that, that is Mandarb and Aldib, their horses, and that they're trained so they would try to escape danger and then come back. I still think that him looking at Rand saying, "Why don't you hoist me over?" as well as him saying, "Pretty sure we can leave him behind," are both the first two instances of the dagger kind of playing with him, his emotions, his mentality, and how he looks at the world. He has now went into straight up survival mode. Not that he wasn't kind of already there, but think about it. You're talking about him saying, "No, I'm pretty sure we can just leave people behind." But he didn't do that on Winter's Night. Winter's Night, he went back out after his sisters, and I know that he feels, they're making that he is very big on his sisters and trying to protect them in this series because his parents are garbage piles. But I still don't, that same person with that same mentality doesn't just leave their friends behind. Maybe they do after thinking about it for a second, but they don't go, "No, pretty sure we can leave them. Keep going." That is the dagger. Just like him, not, wanting himself to go into safety before Rand. That's the dagger. I like that Rand just didn't immediately do stuff, and he didn't channel the thing open. He wedged the sword, so I don't think we've seen Rand channel us. There's your big spoiler. Rand's probably going to be the Dragon Reborn. I think they're going to leave that, and that he can channel. I think we see it in the next episode. I think we all realize that, hopefully. We'll get into it then. But they get out. Everybody escapes. So they split the party pretty much the same way they do in the books. Rand and Perrin on one side. Rand and Matt on one side. Perrin and Egwene on the other. And then you have Moraine and Lan. Moraine finally starts to come to consciousness. And where are we? He doesn't have to say it. The water bond told her they're in Shadow Lagoth. They're screwed. You've killed us. Just could you imagine having your Aes Sedai say that to you if you were a warder? Just, Could you imagine having your girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse, partner look at you, you know, you're doing everything you can to try to save everybody, and they just look at you and go, you killed us. Oh, that's gotta hurt so bad. Nonetheless, Lamb being the ward he is, just picks her up, gets out of Shadow Goth, and, you know, first thing he does, gently puts her down and tries to give her some water. He doesn't get any water for himself, tries to give her some water. And then Nynaeve puts her sword to his neck in very Nynaeve fashion. And I think we all knew that as soon as she's like, hey, where are they? You know, they're not here. Take me to them right now type thing. I think we all know that the opening of the next one is going to be how she escaped Trollocs, which it is. We'll get into that in the next video breakdown. Yeah, so this episode overall, I mean, so much better. So much better. If it weren't for some wonky CGI, I'd probably be a little happier with this. But there was a couple spots. But, you know, overall, vast improvement over the last one. I do still feel like this is a little bit rushed. They're going through the story very, very fast. I'm not entirely sure why, other than the length of the series is enormous, and you can't do one book per year. There's no way to do one book per year, because by the time you got to the end of it, you know, people like Egwene will be 35. So that's even assuming. I don't know how old Madeline Madden actually is in real life, but let's just say that she's 20. That would put her at 35. You know, okay, maybe she's 18. That put her at 33. There's a big difference there in ages. So they're definitely going to have to do more than a book a season. Maybe if they made the seasons a little longer than, you know, 19 episodes, they could do things like 2 books a season and, you know, stuff like that. And there are definitely some sloggy books that I think they're going to be able to trudge through and go through really quick. Hey, you know, it is what it is. So one thing I did forget to mention was that little scene with Perrin in the woods where you get the wolves. I kind of liked it. I'm not going to say necessarily that the wolves growling at some points are all in Perrin's mind, that they were just sitting there like, hey, what's up, bro? I think that there were a few of them that were very, no, we don't need to talk to this human. Let's just go off and hunt Trollocs or deer or something. But I think that the leader of the pack is that wolf that comes up and licks Perrin's wounded leg. And after that happens, you know, the wolf kind of looks up for a second, as if almost thinking it through, and then just leaves, and all the other wolves, you know, give chase or follow at least. So I think that was just a little bit of tension in the pack. I don't think that's necessarily all in Perrin's mind, as I've heard a couple people say they think that could be a possibility. I don't think that's it. I don't think that's his perception of things. I think that's still reality. I don't think they're going to get into a lot of the unreliable narrator aspects in this, at least not until we start really saying like madness because of channeling. Then maybe, but just because of this, no. I do think that cutting Elias had a purpose, and I think that that purpose is keeping why Perrin is having this affinity to the wolves as more of a secret, and we will get into that in the theory videos. So until I get to the next theory video, you guys have a wonderful one, and I will see you next time.